Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. The Trevor Sean Audiocast. How's it going? Man, episode number 25. Just keep cranking these out. Yes, hope you guys are having a great week. I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this episode. I love the fall, so I'm like super jacked about that. Football's coming. It's my favorite sport. That and basketball between the two seasons. Um, yeah, and like that school learning vibe, like kind of going back to school and all that kind of stuff. It's like this time of year is literally my favorite. No doubt for sure. So I'm super excited. I'm excited to talk to you guys about some things that have been on my mind. So for topics, I'm going to be going through. The first topic is sharpen your focus, and then the second one is work to finish. So just a couple thoughts that I've been thinking about, and I'll try not to drag them so long today, so that I'm very concise and precise with my speech. But yeah, if this is the first time you've checked this podcast out, this is just a space where I'm just documenting my journey for building a successful, valuable life, leaving some notes and hopefully some value for other people that are trying to do the same thing. So hopefully you guys pull something out of this that's interesting. And yeah, I just like the idea of being able to share thoughts and get ideas from different sources that we trust, and hopefully I can be something of that for you. So, and yeah, it's definitely thanks for listening and checking out these episodes. If you are some type of a regular, or you're interested in this type of, if you're interested in this show, consider subscribing and hit the alarm to get notifications. I'm a little inconsistent with episodes. It's about like every other week right now. But one of the main reasons for that is I just want to make sure I'm bringing some type of solid value without being redundant or, I'm not trying to beat the algorithm or anything. I'm literally just trying to offer thoughts of things that I go through throughout my weeks. And so hopefully that's something that, if that's something you care about and you want to ride the vibe, then definitely subscribe, hit the notification so you can stay up to date, because I'm trying to be consistent, but no promises. All right. So yeah, I'll just dive into it, man. So the first topic, sharpen your focus. This is something that's been, I don't even know how to explain this. This has been grinding on me like almost my entire life. It's like, I don't know what it is, but the idea of like having to choose one thing to do the rest of my life, I don't know. I don't know if anybody else out there feels the same way, but it's like a little terrifying, because there's just so many fun, interesting things that you could do, and we have a lot of time in the day, so it seems pretty reasonable to be able to do more than just one or two things to sum up your life and identify with. Man, I just can't talk today. Sorry. Damn. I'll try to get it together. But yeah, like the idea of having to choose one thing to do, it's been pretty terrifying for me. So, and like, look at me, I'm like 34 years old, I've been going down that path and pushing through it, but it definitely hasn't been easy. However, I'm here to talk about it because I've had a really crazy experience with it it's been the last year, but very recently, the last few months, where I've really tried to push on it, and it's been weirdly crazy. It's been crazy, but I'm here to tell you from a guy who definitely doesn't want to pigeonhole myself in anything. The last few months, I've really, really tried to limit my goals and my projects and all that kind of stuff to like two things. I don't know where I came up with that number. It just seems like that was a plausible number to be able to do something for the majority of the time, and then something else as a minority type project to be able to, do something creative or whatever. This podcast would be something along those lines. I've also shared with you guys, I have a YouTube channel where I do like tech reviews and tutorials. So that kind of falls in the line of that second type project that I'm talking about. But my main job, I do. I'm basically a event specialist for a platform called SmashPass.com. So we do online ticketing registration for events, and my main job is to grow the business. And it's very difficult. We're a small operation, but it's also very fun, and I have a lot of freedom to be able to do a lot of different things with it. And so, anyway, I've taken that extra seriously the last, I don't know, what would you say, 4 months. Been really trying to dive deeper into what that means and how to grow it, how to sell better, different ways to get new clients, blah, blah, blah. And by focusing on that and like just getting rid of everything else, it was hard. It was really hard. Like the first week, I would say, it was just so difficult. And it took a little time to be able to continue to push things off my plate. But every time I did notice a huge difference in just the way that I felt and also in the progress I was making. And I think those two are, what would you say? Definitely correlated in as far as how I felt versus the things I was doing. So, sorry, I'm just reading a few notes that I took, but yeah, I know it's a difficult idea and concept to get, especially like for me. I'm just so curious and interested in so many different things, and so it took me a long time to kind of figure it out. And obviously, a lot of books that I've read, even especially Grit, Jordan Peterson talks a lot about it. A lot of these dudes that are doing great things for a really good reason, because they really dive into one line of work rather than 5. It's not like anyone's like a professional in 5 different things. You have to really take something seriously in order to get really good at it. And there's only so much time in the day. And then we start adding on other responsibilities and obligations and our adult life, such as families, kids, other activities that you want to be present for. And it gets crazy. So, yeah, I I said a couple notes I wrote down that I wanted to make you aware of. And so the first one was that really kind of started to hit me was, and it's so weird how you all of a sudden you just kind of get a concept and you're like, damn, dude, why couldn't I get that earlier? But for whatever reason, hopefully this helps someone that's younger than me, or even older than me, and you're just things are starting to click. Like, who cares? Everyone has their timeline that they're running. But the first thing was, it's hard to be consistent when you're trying to do more than like 3 projects. And I mean, I'm a great example of that. I mean, I've talked about like putting this thing out every week and maybe twice a week, blah, blah, blah. But it's hard to be good and consistent on projects when you have 5, 6, 7 different things that you're trying to like be good at and do, and then time gets lost on you. You get you get worn out, and there's other things going on, and there's just like there's not a ton of time, unless you're going to be a crazy isolated person, which I don't think is healthy either. Then you have to like start cutting back. And so that's something I noticed. Another thing is, with too many projects, you just can't dive deep into anything, and you can't like really get very solid value out of it. It's like you really want to, in my scenario, I'm trying to think, maybe this would be a good idea. I'm trying to think of how many projects that I was doing at one time, and it was ridiculous. I have it written down on my goals. I was writing my goals one month. I'll just give you some vague notes here, but under my work projects and stuff, it's like I had my day job, the majority project. So I had all my goals for that, which was heavy. And then after that, I had my YouTube channel, which was also pretty freaking heavy. I think I put down I was trying to do like 3 videos a week. You know how long it takes to freaking research, record, and edit and publish one video? It took me, I just talked about this last week. It took me a whole week working very consistently on one thing to get that video out, and it wasn't even that intense. And I had already shot it, by the way, so that was just editing. So, and then I had this podcast, and then I had another project that I'm working on that's very, very small. This is very in the background, but it's my coaching one that I'm trying to push out, which is kind of backseat at this point. And then I had my small business that I started. I mean, that's 5 already. I mean, that's like crazy. I can't even believe I was trying to do that. It's like nuts, dude. And the tough thing about that is like when you have all these projects, you start to feel really crappy about yourself because you're not making any solid gains in any of them except maybe one, which is the majority of it. And then all your other creative projects that you are thinking are your outlet for creativity or whatever, you're not getting that satisfaction. So you just, in my situation, I was just feeling really depressed about it and like, why can't I get this stuff done? So anyways, the next note I was thinking about that I want to share is like shallow work equals very unrewarding work. It's really hard to offer some type of value and feel very valuable when you're always just doing like this shallow base level type stuff, replying to emails, sending out reminders, dealing with customer service type issues that just aren't really solving any real valuable problems. And from my scenario, my main job in what I get graded off of is new clients and tickets sold. That's it. I mean, that's like the health of the business. And so I had plenty of busy work that I was doing during a lot of these days and weeks, but not very valuable, strong work, which is what I'm getting graded on, which is my livelihood going forward. And so it just made it very difficult to very difficult to rationalize some of the activities I was doing that wasn't giving me the results that I really needed. And so when I went back and looked at what was the most valuable type of work I needed to do, a lot of the activities I was doing wasn't lining up with that. So that was cool to like take a deep dive into that and start to get better at the skills necessary to build and grow the business. So anyway, number 4 note that I have written down is if you're not an expert at anything, then your value and skills are shallow and easily replaced. And that's very true. I mean, there's a couple deals that I was working on early on that I probably should have gotten, but I just wasn't ready yet. And so those are good building experiences. I'm saying that you're going to get everything. And I mean, this is a growth chart, right? And those experiences help build me to the point I am now. And I feel now those experiences are definitely paying dividends, especially since I started to push off all these other projects and really focus on my work. It's really coming around full circle where some of these jobs, which I may have lost 6 months ago, I'm like starting to turn those around, which is cool. And then this is the other thing that's really cool, and Jordan Peterson alludes to this too, but he talks about like a narrow, deep knowledge and focus. Once you make that sacrifice to go down that road, after you cross through the threshold of that, whatever makes you an expert in that field, then opportunities start to expand out again. And that's where it starts to get really, really cool. And I'm definitely not there yet, but I can see where it starts to do that. And it's like exciting. Like you grind for a while, you throw yourself into the fire pit and really start to harden yourself up and your skills and like work on yourself. Then all of a sudden, people are coming up and asking you like, hey, what's the best way to put on an event? How do you do this? How do you do that? And all of a sudden you're the expert and everyone's going to you. And so then that opens up a lot of other opportunities where, for example, for me, I could like maybe run my own expo for event best practices or something like that, because I've just been around the industry for so long and know the best things to do as far as like online ticketing goes and, whatever. So that's been kind of a cool realization. That one's a very slow play because like I said, I'm definitely not to that point yet, but I can see how that opens up later on, and it's a cool thing to realize for sure, especially when you're grinding for so long. And sometimes, I mean, there's some long weeks and some long days sometimes, but it's very good and rewarding. And so the one thing I don't want to get misinterpreted on this is I do think it's important for you to go and experience a lot of different things, because there's a lot of different type of things. There's a lot of things that you can do, but make sure you give yourself enough time to experience it instead of just dabbling. I think is a problem. Trying something, diving into it enough to know if it's good or not, and then bouncing out, I think that's way more valuable, and that leads to way better opportunities and a lot less wasted time for sure. So keep that in mind. All right. Then this next topic I wanted to talk about, just because it's been something that's been on my mind really quite a bit actually over the last year, I would say. But it's work to finish. And so a quick backstory about this. I've had a really bad relationship with work pretty much my entire life. My dad growing up was very, I take ownership for this, but from the very beginning, I had a bad relationship with work because I didn't like it, and I didn't like how my dad taught it. And if I didn't do it right and do it hard, I got in a lot of trouble. And so I just had this really bad negative feedback loop for it, and I just hated it. And so as I grew older I started to kind of mold out that a little bit, but I always had a negative experience with it. And so there's some work, and I started to realize this in my later years, where like my dad never considered sports or anything like that work, but to me and my experience, I love sports, and there was a lot of work that came with it. Like you had to stay in shape, had to put up a lot of shots, throw a lot of footballs, all that kind of stuff to be able to maintain a certain level of play. And that's work, man. And my dad kind of ingrained that wasn't, but I disagree. And so I think once I kind of learned that and fell back onto that, I'd be like, hey, I am a good worker. Just because I don't like to pull weeds doesn't mean I'm not a good worker. I just had to like fix my mindset around it to understand that there's a lot of different types of work, and we're all better at some things than others. And so once I wrapped my head around that, then I think I could open my mind to understanding that there's tons of work that you have to do that you're not going to like. And that's in everything. And some fields, and especially ones that you like, there's going to be less work that you hate, but there's still going to be some stuff you have to grind through. And so this I just, especially lately, especially with my kids getting older and stuff like that, I think it's really important to teach and to learn yourself that whatever you take on, you got to finish it. And I'm not saying that in the rules of, I don't know, you want to like finish your backyard and do a big project, you have to get it all done in one day. I don't think that's good. But you have to understand whatever your pace is, that's fine. And whatever you decide to do for that day, you have to like grind and push for it. Like, even something I've been doing with my workouts lately, I've upped my sets from 3 to 4. And that last set, man, sometimes I'm just like, you got 3 in, you're good. But I've been really strict on like, nope, you got to do 4. That's what your goal was. That's what you set out before you started. You got to get it done no matter what. And no matter how long it takes, like, I think time's a huge factor in these types of things where it's like, I'm running out of time. I'll just do it later. But I think it's a lot more valuable to try to push as hard as you can to get things done quicker, and try to also not think about the time. Just think about getting the project done. I think that's a big deal. Kobe Bryant talks about that a lot in his book, about putting in the necessary time, no matter how long it takes. You just got to get whatever you got to do done, and then you're able to move on, which I think is really a huge, valuable lesson for us individually, and then also for those around us in our networks, in our families, and for our kids, things like that. So yeah, I just had a couple notes here. So let's see. I think I might have touched on some of them already, but it's important to have a strong work ethic and also understanding the value of completing something very hard. So pulling weeds, dude, like no one likes to pull weeds, especially out in the hot sun and all that kind of stuff. It's like sucks, but understanding the value of like grinding through it and then looking at the work that you did and be like, dude, that looks so much better. That's super important to be able to grasp and understand. Like, even though it sucked, look how good it looks and it's done. That's a great feeling to have, and that translates over to all work that you do, which I think is really a huge lesson that you have to teach and to learn yourself. And then, just like I already said, whatever you take on, work till it's finished. So make sure you get it done in whatever capacity that you are agreeing to do it. So that's important. And then as you get older, this is my last note about this, is you got to start to know yourself and understanding the type of work that you absolutely hate. And there's work that you hate, but there's other work that you like, especially work that you're getting compensated for and earning money for. Then you got to outsource those other things, because if you're doing shit that you hate, then you're not living a good life. And I know there's things that we got to get done. I get it. But you also have to start understanding the quality and value of your time. And if you're always putting yourself into these projects that you're not good at and that you don't like to do and you don't want to get better at and whatever, then those are moments where you have to understand yourself and start to look elsewhere to be able to finish those projects with and outsourcing those out. And I used to have such a negative experience with that, because my dad was like a do it all everything type guy, and I always thought that's how you're supposed to be. But growing older, I'm just like, no. I mean, there's some things I really enjoy. I still enjoy mowing the lawn and like doing some of those other things. But as far as like fixing a car, bro, I hate excuse me, I hate fixing cars. I didn't like it growing up. I've tried it growing up, and there's some things I can do that I'm down with, but the extra stuff, I'm just like, it's not worth it to me, and I'm not cool with it. So I definitely push that off, and I'm way happier. Don't have to spend the resources and time to figure it out, and I'm way happier, and my cars are taken care of, and everything's cool. So yeah, don't feel like you're being a bitch if you have to push things off. I think it's a good lesson to learn that there's plenty of experts out there that can do that job way better and be a way better use of your time and money. So anyways, for whatever it's worth, that's what I've decided to talk about today. I hope you guys found something valuable in this. Definitely, like I said, subscribe, get the notifications for new episode drops. And I love you guys, man. Hope you guys have a great week. Let's dominate it. And yeah, till next time. Peace.